Welcome to Consciousness Chronicles with my beautiful friend Millie and me, Linda. We're here to share our wit and wisdom and talk about spiritual and non-spiritual stuff. The intention of this podcast is to bridge the gap between the spiritual novice and the conscious veteran. Wherever you are in your journey, we're all still human and we're here to embrace all that this beautiful life has to offer. The show's
Mm.
designed to be a fun, deep dive filled with a little bit of raw stuff from time to time, a few tears, lots of love. So,
Thank
my
you.
dear, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I am good. I have the magic jar today.
You prick it. Go ahead. Go in there and go.
Oh, and just so everybody knows why I'm in a weird space today is because my house is too hot. Well, I should say my office space is too hot. I had to get out where there's more air conditioning.
Mm.
And today we get timelines, timeline jumping. This is your area of expertise, my dear.
Well, you know what first came to me when you picked that? I had that moment of like, oh, am I going to be judged for this all over again? That's what came up.
I hate that.
Me too. Um, how does one even like tackle that? Like, how do you tackle that if you've never like, unless you've watched a sci-fi movie, how do you even tackle that?
Maybe I need to pull a different. I mean, really, it's all speculation because we don't have any scientific evidence at this point, although we're highly suspect about a lot of things that are going on out there.
This is really out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to try and do it.
Let's give it a shot. And if we get, if we're only 10 minutes in and we're like at a
That
loss,
10
we can
minutes,
just
that's
pull something
great. We'll just,
else.
or you could just have one for 10 minutes
There you
and go
go.
on to
That
next.
works.
Ever since I was a little girl, I have had in dreams where I actually go to different timelines. There's this one timeline that I just went to like a few days ago. It's my favorite timeline. Is this woman? She reminds me of the girl in Brave. She's got the long red hair with the freckles, but
Mm.
she's in her 40s and she's got a Zoom of children. Like she's got like, I don't know how many children. I know she's a foster care mom. But when I go there, it looks like the Red Rock in Australia. She has this big ranch. Like, have you ever seen the movie Australia with Nicole Kidman? Like they're out there. And when I wake up in her space and I see the kids, I keep seeing them growing from little. And what might feel like a one night, 8 hours of sleep to me, sometimes I'm there for like a year. And I don't know where she goes, but it's obviously a timeline that's an alternate timeline that's happening at the same time because they have no technology. They speak English, but it's got an accent. And I've never seen her in this dream state. I've never seen her with another man or a man, period. But she's dedicated her life to raising all these children. And they
Sounds
come
familiar.
through. Yeah, they come through and there's it's hard work, but when I go to this timeline, to this dream state, there's always this piece of me that feels so at peace. It's one of my favorite timelines. And I can't just say, oh, tonight, please God, let me go there. It can work like I could go in 6 months and then again, I don't have it for another year. I won't dream about it. And I know that people sometimes dream about the same thing, like the same house. They know they've been in this house or they've been in this town. And they're like, but in my life, I've never experienced those things. You're time jumping. You're time jumping to an alternate timeline. And, you know, I don't even know like movies that was it Interception that had different timeline where he's in the back of what there's different movies where you're actually jumping different timelines. Or there was an old show called Sliders. Do you remember this show?
No, I'll have to watch.
Oh, it was
Never
back in the
heard of it.
90s. It was back in the 90s, and it was a show about alternate timelines that these people would actually slide through a wormhole and actually
Hmm.
go to another timeline where they actually existed. And the only way to get back to this timeline is that they had to fix something there. And it was a professor with like three other people. Anyways, so when I go there, I mean, there's several different timelines, but when I go to that one specifically, it's almost like coming home. Now, I don't want, I've done the ranch, I've done the farm, I've done the horses and the chicken in this timeline. I've done the amount of children. I have no interest in having to relive anything like that. But when I get there, Linda, it just feels like home. And I don't know where she goes to, but I step into her body and I do everything that I need to do. Well, I'm wondering where her consciousness is. Does she come and rest over here? Like, and if this is just a dream world, I've been having this dream for like decades.
She probably needs a rest with all those kids.
I mean, she's got, I don't know, maybe 13, 14, those that
Oh
pass
my
through.
gosh.
And
Yeah,
she's alone
that sounds like you.
in another timeline.
Yeah, right. Wow. And probably another century, maybe?
But if it's another timeline, it doesn't have to be another century because the
Right.
timelines
No,
are
but I'm
going.
just thinking it sounds like maybe it's 1800s or something, and you're just
No, no, it's
bouncing
more
back and
modern.
forth.
It's more modern.
Oh, okay.
It looks like the 70s outfits, but they're not as, what I do know is that there's a soul that is you. And you know who the Fred Wolf is? He's the physicist. I think it's Fred Wolf.
Mm-mm.
Fred Allen Wolf, I think is his name. Where he explains that here's the soul, here's you in the center. And at the same time that this is happening, that you're having this human experience, you have an endless amount of infinite timelines happening at the same time. And I feel that the reason that we have deja vu, and most people have had one case or two of deja vu, where you go, I've seen this before. I feel that it's because you've already experienced that in another timeline. And now
Mm.
you're having this memory of something happening in another timeline. So even though it might shift a little bit and it might not be exactly what you perceive, the goal or the purpose of it is that you've already experienced something similar in another timeline. I had a spiritual teacher that used to say to me, you have this ability to jump timelines and you've done it from the time you were born. I don't know many people who can do that. So my question to you is, when you jump into that timeline, why don't you ask that aspect of you who might be a nurse or who might be a business person to actually come back and help you? Because obviously that aspect of you is happening in another timeline. You have the resources. So sometimes when I'm in
Mm.
meditation and I can't find a certain thing to like focus on, I will ask in meditation that other aspect of me to come in and help me with a situation because they've already done it or they're expert at that.
Mm.
Let's just say that I wasn't good with money. Okay. I'm just giving you an example. I would ask another aspect of me that perhaps is an accountant in another timeline to come and help me with a situation because I didn't know anything about industrial parts, but I knew that the dreams that I've had throughout the years in my 20s, I had that timeline in another. I mean, I was an engineer, so I can access those parts. I was able to access a lot of times those aspects of going into a factory and knowing how to look at machinery and know without even knowing that I knew what parts or what they needed. Even if I went to school for that, I was able to retrieve parts of that other aspect. And not all aspects are female. There's some that are male, but your soul doesn't have a gender. So it picks and chooses what is happening at the same time in another timeline. I feel like I'm rambling. I don't
So this may be a stupid question, but is another timeline another lifetime? Or because it kind of feels like that the way you're talking.
know. I mean, there could be. I'm not an expert at this. I just know from my experience.
Yeah.
My timelines are happening at the same time. I can go and retrieve those timelines or aspects of those timelines and try to help. Give you an example. Back in 2021, and I remember this like it was September of 2021. I went to sleep and I woke up in this other Millie. She looked very similar to me. This other Millie's in the dream, this other Millie's body, and she is in a wheelchair looking at herself in the bathroom. And she's got all of these pills in front of her. And this is a dream or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it could have been a dream. And I said to her as I jumped into her body, if you could just give me some time, I can get you through this. She had had a car accident. Her pain was horrible, and she didn't want to live here anymore. And
Mm.
she was just giving up. I was there for over a year in that timeline while I slept, and I was able to get her to get physical therapy and able to get her to get moving. When I came back the next morning, I had bruises on my body that manifested from the thing that they put on me to be able to get the harness that they put on me. My body ached for like a week. I would have thought that I actually went to the timeline and manifested this in my dream or whatever. You know what? When I was done with her for a year and a half, she was able to walk with a cane, but she was able to walk. And another time, I've given birth to other me's that have given up and they just want to go because the pain is so severe. I've walked into it at the moment of labor, and I've actually, in the dream state, been able to birth those children. Now, I have a really good imagination, obviously. I don't know how to, I mean, I don't know if this is real or not, but when I have asked to do this, like I have a friend, Angelica, that I sit with sometimes, and we do meditate for years. And she's like, you're a flight risk. Even if you knew how to do this spontaneously, you would not come back to this life. You would open up those portals and you go through and you're a flight
Mm.
risk. They don't want you knowing how to jump there because you would not come back here. And
And
they're
it
right.
creates a safe space to have you
Right.
go and come back.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's not on cue. I can't say, I want to go to that lifetime where that mirror lady lives and I can actually live and experience life very wholesome, no technology and be able to just enjoy. I can't. I have to wait for it to form and it's random. Might not have that dream again for another year. I don't know. I'm
Mm.
wondering how many people have this and they don't even know that they're timeline jumping and they just call it out to like, oh, it must be a past life thing. I don't know. Do you have?
You know, I listen to other people's dreams and I go, my dreams are so damn boring.
I don't think so.
I'm always going back and I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of times with people who are just acquaintances to me in my life. Or I'm going back to old jobs and reworking things and working with people that I really didn't have a lot of interaction with in this life, but doing things with them. It's every scenario is not unforeign to me, and the generally the people are not
Mhm.
unforeign
Mhm.
either because they're people I know. So I don't know. I always feel instinctually that perhaps I'm working through some things or assisting those people in working through some things.
Do
No.
you dream in color?
Yes.
Okay, because that's a question that Freud and Jung and a lot of other psychologists from the 1900s and 1800s believe that people dream in black and white. I dream in
Hmm.
color. I can tell you the detail of every single thing. Not everybody
Yeah.
dreams in color.
Yeah.
They put a color to the memory because it's associated to what they know here. But if they really think about it, they're not dreaming in color. They're already altering their perception because they can't think of themselves being in black and white. I dream in color. I go in color. I don't
Yeah.
have, I mean, it's the richness, the colors that I can go, oh, I was wearing that red dress.
Yeah.
Oh, I was wearing,
Oh,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Like,
right. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Now, and maybe this should be titled timeline jumping or dream state.
yeah,
Because have you done any lucid dreaming?
yes.
How does that present for you? Like, give me an example.
I can lucid dream by concentrating before I go to bed on having answers about something and I leave my body and I can actually, but I'm still in a state of dream. It's
Mm,
very different than me jumping into another timeline.
wow.
I am aware of what's actually happening and that I have control of what I'm experiencing, where the timeline I have no control. I'm there. I'm there and I go for the ride. I think that the lucid dreaming is quite different and it's very real. You feel it, you feel your body, you feel yourself out of your body. Where I am not out of my body when I time jump. When I'm timeline jumping, I am in that body, and I am very well aware that I am in that timeline. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't never asked anybody else these questions, Linda. I don't know anybody
Yeah,
else
I
to
don't know. I'd be
ask.
interested in hearing what people watching have to say and if they could share experiences too. My husband, he doesn't prep or anything. He gets into a dream and then he's like controlling it. And then I
Isn't that
realized
like
I didn't
lucid
want this
dreaming?
to happen, so I made this thing over here. He's like engineering his
Isn't that
dream,
like lucid dreaming? Like he's having a lucid memory or dreaming, and he's actually able to
control it.
fix that, control it.
He can control it all. And he just acts like that's normal. That's how people are. And I'm like, no, that is
Not
a lot
everybody
of
does
people
that.
cannot do that.
No,
That
no.
is
Do
very
you
different.
remember do you remember the movie with Ethan Hawke called The Waking Life? Did you ever see that movie?
No.
It's an animated film, maybe about 15, 20 years ago. And the whole premises of the movie is asking if you are in a dream state, are you really awake? And when we're actually awake, are we actually dreaming? And how the two bleed together, how they form. Because no one really knows.
Yeah, this right now could be a dream. This whole
This could
life
be a
that we're
dream. Yeah.
living could
Yeah.
be a 20-minute dream.
Right. And then when you go to sleep, you're actually waking up to the real you and whatever that looks like. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speculation is huge. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not a physicist, so I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I wish there was some data on that, but I don't know that anybody's,
Sure, there is. I just
well, there's
never looked
probably
for it.
some, but probably not a lot. But yeah, dream or timelines or past lives or it's a lot to think about.
Are we in a simulation?
Well, that I believe 100%.
Then I demand the person that has me as their avatar to do a better job. They're doing a shitty job. If this is a simulation and I am
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
avatar, I demand a new player because not okay. Not okay.
When big events come up and I talk to Greg about it, I'm always like, but what if this was a video game? What would be our next move? What should we do now?
Mhm.
Because I never played video games. It
I
just
didn't either.
Miss Pac-Man, that was about
That was it.
my experience, you know.
Or
He
Centipede.
he
That was
played a
it. That
lot of
was,
video games. So I'm like,
yeah.
okay, let's approach it like that. What do we do now?
This is a really hard subject. And the reason I say it's a hard subject is because I don't think people talk about it because they don't think about when they're in that dream state, what is happening to them. But I also think that prophetic dreams fall somewhere in between of all that. People who actually have prophetic dreams, are they really having prophetic dreams, or are they acquiring information from other timelines that have already happened and bringing them here? Because
Like
if they've
people who
already
dream of events that come to pass on this timeline.
right, are they maybe tapping into something that's already happened in another timeline? Because one of the things that I argue, because I'm the biggest skeptic there is ever. Most people can't imagine that I'm a skeptic because I see so many things. No, I'm the biggest skeptic. If I haven't experienced it, I question everything. Was maybe the dead people that I'm seeing are remnants of other timelines, and maybe they're not dead. And that's why when they come through, they sometimes come in with a little bit of difference that I'm trying to explain to my client. And then, but everything else fits. And maybe what I'm seeing is that I'm tapping into another timeline. They're not really dead people that can come back and talk. They're other aspects of the person that died. Do you understand?
I do. Um, a good friend of mine did a psilocybin journey and went back and saw his deceased loved ones and was talking to his grandpa who was saying, "Yeah, this is okay, but I'm really looking forward to coming back and doing this again." And he was like, "What, you doing your life again?" He's like, "Yeah, I like that life. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to do it again." No,
The
there's something
same
to think
lifetime,
about.
the same lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to live this one the
So
first
that's
time around, let
like
alone the
scary to
second
think
time.
about, right?
I mean, think about it. Why would you want to do the same exact life all over again? Like, I don't want to do it again.
He clearly enjoyed his.
Clearly. I, you know what? Who knows? Who knows the reality of anything? This is all up for grabs.
Yep.
I think that when we talk about these subjects, we're just putting our own experiences. That doesn't mean that it's happening to anybody else. I would be interested in knowing how many people actually, without unknowingly, touch upon other lifetimes and they come back and they go, I had a memory of this house. I had a friend many, many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, that from a little girl, she would walk through this house that she loved. It was this big country house. She always had the same description. And she would say to me, I've been going to that house for years on end, and it's always so peaceful. So she asked her mother, did we ever live in this type of house? And this, like, never, never. I mean, they were Latinos, and this was like in the middle of the United States. And I always found it fascinating until I started paying attention and realizing that I also had like a whole bunch of different memories that weren't of this lifetime, but they weren't past lives. I realized it was happening at the same time as this one.
Hmm.
Do you know what I think about schizophrenia? Because I worked with clients that had schizophrenia when I used to do guardianship services. Is that a lot of times what we think they're having a conversation with something that's not there? I could see that they're talking to somebody. But on top of that, the things that they're saying, they're actually so open. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still some mental health issues
Right.
and many, but a lot of times what these people have grown into has been told by the government and society that there's something wrong with them, is that they're so wide awake and they're tapping into other aspects of themselves. So what they're listening
Mhm.
to or seeing is actually remembrance of another timeline. And we're judging them and saying, here, you're sick, so let's give you this pill. Because if you listen closely to, a lot of times people who have schizophrenia, they actually know more about stuff of the government than we do. And they're
Yep.
tapping into something,
Oh,
So
I totally
we're
believe that.
we're so quick to judge what we don't understand. It doesn't matter if it's religion, politics, or just life. If we don't understand it, we put it in a box and we start judging it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I end up in court, I'll come after you.
I'll come vouch for your crazy.
I end up in court again, I'm gonna come after somebody. It's gonna be you. I'm
I'll
sweating
come
over
with
here.
you. I'll come with you.
You know what? One thing I've learned, if you question your sanity over and over, you're definitely not insane. People who have mental health
Yes. Thank
issues
you.
do not
Absolutely.
know. They don't think they're crazy. They know they're not crazy. I question my sanity on a daily basis, maybe about 10 times. Am I
Yep.
crazy? Am I rational? Am I making decisions based on my emotions? What I mean, like, it's a constant question because all of my life I've been judged by something or other about what I feel.
Mm.
So I wake up and I immediately ask myself, are you crazy today? How crazy are you? It's a
And then the
notch all
little
the way
voice
up.
says,
All depends if it's the little angel or the little devil. I don't know.
oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Gotta watch for that.
That was a really good conversation. I don't
It
know.
was.
I hope that,
Well, if anybody knows anybody that's very knowledgeable in this area, send them our way and we'll get them on the
yeah.
show and talk to them. That
Yeah.
would be really great because I'd
It
like
would
some
be.
answers.
I would too.
Yeah. So I love you,
I
my
love you.
dear.
I
And I
love
love
you. And I
everyone
love
out there.
everybody.
Love you all. Thanks for being here. Please, please like, share, subscribe, do all those fun things.
Please.
Yes. Bye.